Welcome to the Loud Quiet. Ooh, empty nester. Okay. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think that actually probably is the theme of the empty nest. What are we doing? Let's do this. Let's do this thing. I don't know if I'm recording. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Sans children. Just us. We need a tissue box up here. Follow along on our journey, and maybe, we can learn from others.
Yeah. I don't have a clue how to be empty nester.
This is the Loud Quiet, living the empty nest.
Hey everyone, welcome again to The Loud Quiet, episode 23. Gotten off to a little bit of a quirky start today, so if you see a little distraction, or for those of you that are watching the video notice something a little different about us, Clancy and I are not wearing our headphones. That is because as we started to record just a little while ago, suddenly Clancy's headphones stopped working. She looks down and realizes that Miso has chewed through the cord and came back for more after he finished the first round of chewing. So if we're a little distracted today, all apologies. And if you see a cat, he's not electrified, but he's probably scared after running out after we got onto him a little bit. So we will do our best to give you and give us a normal episode of The Loud Quiet in spite of, well, the cat throwing us for a curve here.
Yes. And hopefully next week we'll be back with headphones after we order another cord.
And another cat.
Yeah. No, we don't need another cat.
That's right. Anyone looking for a cat, hit us up at theloudquietpod.com.
But this week I thought I found an article or a post that was done by a website called heavenmademarriage.com. I didn't seek them out. I just put in questions that empty nesters might ask, and it pulled up an article that this website had posted that was 10 questions that you can ask each other about going into the empty nest phase, or if you're already in it. So it would be a good thing if, for those of you who, I would imagine most everyone who's listening to this is either starting out in the empty nest phase or is already in it, might just be a good thing to do with your partner, spouse, just to see where you're at. Maybe take another reset on what you're thinking. There's 10 questions. We pulled 5. Some of them were a little redundant, but we just thought that we'd go through them and give our answers. We haven't discussed them.
No.
So
you've read the questions to me, but we have not shared what our thoughts are about that. And so we'll be experiencing this. Listeners and viewers will be experiencing it kind of as we are. And I think these can be overused, and they are incredibly valuable as well. And as let's just stop down and let's do that inventory. Let's do that check. And these questions themselves aren't necessarily magical. They're great ones. It's more the process of just stop down with your spouse and have that check-in, because even in the past with kids, you got into routines. Well, empty nests have their own routines.
Well, and I like this one because it is specifically geared towards empty nesters. We've done several marriage retreats. We even did one, last year before the kids left. And those questions revolve around your marriage, but they also tend to revolve around when your kids are still at home. Right. So this one I liked because it was just geared towards the emptiness phase of marriage and life.
So let's explore together.
Right.
We'll see. We're not gonna edit. We're gonna see how this goes.
All right. First one. Well, this one's easy, but what is one country you would like us to visit? And it was as empty nesters, just us, not with the kids, because we do still include our children in our big trips that we do.
Right.
So what was your answer? I mean, we've kind of discussed, I think.
This is hard for me, though, because there's so many. And so I'm trying to narrow it down to, okay, what would I want to travel exclusively with just you? And I think it's the Maldives. I think that over-the-water bungalow, and whether it's the Maldives or somewhere, right, but that concept of the over-the-water bungalow that actually is a long way away and explicitly remote, and something that's incredibly beautiful and, I would imagine, incredibly relaxing. And just that vision of that exotic that relaxing, that beautiful, that can't be tapped into anywhere else. I believe, well, and the other part is they may be underwater in the next decade or so. So there's an element of get to the Maldives before there are no longer Maldives. So now, I could give you 10 others easily.
Yes. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, well, I'd like to go back to places that I went on my own, you went on your own, but we haven't been together.
Yeah.
But my answer for this is Greece. That's still top on my list to do, because that would be a vacation that involves relaxation, but also involves some other types of activities, historical things, and so that would be my answer.
I can get on board with that one easily.
Well, sure, yeah, we've talked about. I mean that,
and we didn't have the food part of it too.
Well, yes,
I'm way on board with that.
Yeah. So yeah, that one was pretty much a.
What's
softball.
Good about this, it is a softball, and it's a way to get into it. What I like about this, you and I have talked travel so much, so this one's kind of, okay, yeah, Greece, okay, Maldives, that kind of stuff. And again, 10 others could easily come to mind. This is something, though, that travel actually connects us and is something that we can talk about. And it cements those visions of, okay, what does the future look like? And a future that includes you and includes us, I think, is a part of why questions like this are so valuable. I'm going to enjoy this. This is gonna be fun
and
to
I
get through
think
these.
we know couples that haven't been out of the country,
Right.
so this might give you a chance to explore some places that we have actually probably done more focused trips outside of the U.S. than we have inside the U.S.
This would be a great question for us to pivot to. What would we want to see inside the U.S. that we haven't seen before?
Yeah. So, all right. Next, what's the one thing you need from me at this stage of our marriage?
Wow, that's a tricky one.
Yeah.
Especially when it's the one thing.
These are all, yes. And again, the last one said the one country, but then we ended up talking about other things. So again, this is just to spark conversation between you and your spouse. And this one to me, because we've been pretty good so far. I don't feel like there's anything areas that. This one was a lot easier to answer when we were in early stages of marriage and had kids and that kind of thing. For me, this one, I probably need, and I know you don't like being this person, but almost accountability to start doing some of the things that I said. I know. See, I see your face.
Those that are listening should see my face.
I see your face.
You sure you want me to do that?
To a certain extent.
Because
there are things that I have said I'm going to start doing, and I haven't started doing any of them. So it's hard to get, for me, January is a hard month to get motivated in because I don't need the fitness aspect of it. That's my job. I already do that. But it's just cold, and I just want to come home and not do anything after I go to work. So I need a little prodding, and maybe I'm just saying that out loud to make myself
right.
more.
But now, if you
So,
ever get on to me, I can go back and pull this episode and go, but you told me to. Okay. All right. That's what's interesting. And again, my face, that was a sincere reaction. I never would have expected that answer. So let's.
Well, because I'm having trouble thinking of other
Yeah.
things right now. So
Well, and this question can go two ways. One, it is, what is one thing that's missing? Or is it just the one thing you need? And I read it as purely as written, the one thing you need.
Right.
I'm not saying that this is necessarily missing, but I still need encouragement and affirmation in the things that I'm doing, primarily in the career space. I also have, when I thought about this, when you read this to me earlier, I was thinking the word involvement comes to mind as well. And that's woven into encouragement and affirmation. I just don't want to use the word need there, but I think I'd enjoy your involvement in some of the ideas that we've expressed. Not necessarily my mainline consulting company that I've got.
I can't help you with any of that stuff.
But some of the things that we won't talk about here that we have talked about as ideas inspired by even this podcast that we're doing, there's some involvement that could be a part of that. And so that encouragement, affirmation, and maybe with the little bonus thought of involvement in what I do from a career perspective.
So do you realize that we just answered the same? Because I know what you're talking about. You know what I'm talking about. We just answered the same thing, just with different words.
Which is probably a testament. I used
more of a negative, like prodding and accountability. You chose encouragement and affirmation.
Well, we can dive a little deeper there. I think it shows though that after approaching 24 years of marriage, that our thoughts do find themselves both aligning, and we're still different people and have different. Even on the same thing, we would have a different lens on that same thing.
Yeah. So
we'll unpack that off here.
All right. This one. How would you like our sex life to change in the next few years?
This one, thankfully you and I are comfortable about talking about this kind of stuff. If you're not comfortable listening to this stuff, well, then just fast forward a few
skip
bits,
to the next
right?
question.
Put it on 2X and just don't listen. Boy, it's hard to express this succinctly. Let me try to think through this. So much of sex when the kids were around was very, not scripted, but just, okay, the kids are gone, let's enjoy time together. Hey, let's go do this, let's do that kind of stuff. To where we were almost reacting to a moment rather than spontaneous elements to it. And I think that the flirtiness and the spontaneity around sex, and even before sex, like a cheeky little text during the day, and I'm not talking about sexting or anything like that. That's not what I mean. But just, some kind of the fun, the flirty, and the spontaneous returning back to a sex life that was probably more of what we had pre-kids. And that's just not how it is with kids. And that's okay. That didn't make that bad. It's just we no longer have that. And so that's a thought that I have. If you ask me 6 months from now, I might have a different thought. That's what comes to mind with all of about an hour to process this question and think of an answer.
Yeah, this one. Okay, so I would say sex life, and I think it's kind of going along what you are saying, is I think we're not missing, but I think we could do better in the intimacy department, which is different than the act of sex.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, having the kids, and as they got older, it's gotten tougher to find times because they're around all the time. Yeah. And, like we said last week, when we were in our 20s, we were in our 20s. It didn't matter if it was Tuesday afternoon, going to bed at 10:30 at night. Now, right. Going to bed at 10 o'clock at night. Yeah, I'm going to bed.
Right.
I'm not. Yeah.
that's not air quotes going to bed. It's going to bed.
Yeah. So I think just I don't need so much the flirtiness or the cheekiness. I need more of the intimacy aspect of it.
What would that evolution look like?
Okay, so here, I actually just thought the question about what do I need from you at this stage of our marriage, another answer, which doesn't necessarily involve this, but it could. I feel like since the kids have been gone, I plan everything. And
Guilty.
I'm not,
Yeah.
So I kind of ready for you to take on some of that aspect. So, and I think that could be wrapped up in this too, but it doesn't need to be. Right. I just mean, what are we going to do on Saturday?
Right.
So. there.
Yeah. I love it when an answer is something that I first of all agree with. It's not a what do you mean? Suddenly I'm defensive and resist. Absolutely. And that's when we were talking yesterday about theater and that sort of stuff. I'm very cognizant that has been an absolute weak point, that you have been the primary vehicle for our activities. Yeah, I've thrown a few in there, right? I'm not going to say that I'm shooting zeros. I'm aware of and agree. And so, yeah, I'll talk to you about those theater ideas and others that we can explore. And you know what? Part of it too is it's just so blooming cold, and my ideas tend to think outdoors, and you do a lot as well.
It's been.
I'm
hard
ready to get
to
out of
plan.
January as well.
Yeah, it's trying to find indoor activities, which is not hard. We saw another movie yesterday. Sure. It was great. But yeah, so that would be, and kind of goes back to the last question. So, all right, next. Is there a new hobby you'd like to try in this stage of life?
Our eyes are distracted because the cat is nearing cords. We're making sure
he's returned
that he's not snacking on anything.
To the scene of the crime.
You know, I went first last time. What's a new hobby you'd like to try at this stage of life?
Well, I think we talked about some things on our, I think, first or second one that we talked about wanting to do. And so I would like to try pickleball. Yeah. We obviously have to wait until it warms up because I don't know. There are indoor pickleball courts, but again, like I said, they're like at 9:30 on a Tuesday morning. Well, okay, that doesn't work when we're not retired. So that would be a new, I guess, hobby. But I also wanted to put in that I need to do a hobby of organization. And like I mentioned, going through the closets and that kind of thing, I got to get started on doing. So I'm seeing that as a hobby.
I'm seeing that as a task.
I don't do that. I mean, our house is organized. It's not cluttery at all, but the closets, need to be. So that would be what.
All right. I like the first one. I'm not so keen on the second, but we'll have to.
I don't know how much you'll be involved in that one, anyways. But
so there's two actually, and so I'm going to cheat.
I did too.
Yeah, you did too as well.
Well, it doesn't say; it just says new. It doesn't give you a number as to how many. So
I would like to not learn, but I actually would like to bring golf into our life. There's too much golf around us that I feel like we're missing an opportunity that if we don't at least try it, like really give it an honest, authentic, let's see if this can be a part of our life type thing, we live 2 miles from the PGA and their coaching center right there. They actually have these great lessons and coaches. You've got to imagine that they're bringing in some pretty good coaches there. We have kids in the state of Arizona which have golf courses out the wazoo. Like, there's a part of me that thinks, are we missing something by not doing it? So that's a new hobby that I'd like to try at this stage of life. We have the time. It's something I'm interested in. I don't want to call this a new hobby, but I really want to try this sometime. And you and I both did this when we were in high school and we did it in college days, and it was going two-stepping.
Oh.
And I looked, and while Country 2001 or whatever, these big clubs, whatever, don't hold a ton of interest for me, all of them have, all right, come for free two-stepping lessons from like 5 to 6. The point is you come there and then you probably stay at the club, maybe even not 5 to 6 or whatever. Yeah. But whether that becomes an actual hobby or not, or just another activity that's on the plate, going two-stepping, because I really enjoyed that. And you and I aren't big country people or anything like that, yet it was still a lot of fun back then, and I think it could be a lot of fun now.
Well, that's the thing. I would go if they played music from our era when we did that.
I don't need new country garbage.
So, not all of it is garbage, but so. And I don't know. I don't have my Rocky Mountains anymore.
Go get you some Rocky Mountains, some Wrangler square butts.
I know. So yeah, I would go for the little lesson thing or whatever. But yes, I would not want to be just thrown out onto the dance floor.
Absolutely not. It's been too long.
Not, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, all right. So, describe what a perfect day would look like when we are retired. Well, we've already referenced a couple of things that I think would be better, or well, one at least would be better served when we are retired. But so,
Do you have a quick answer to this? I need to noodle this a bit.
well, okay, the day that last week when we had Frozen over and my work got canceled, which I wasn't supposed to work that day anyways because it was a holiday, but I really enjoyed taking my time because I still went to the gym even though I wasn't working. It was nice to roll in there at 10:15 after I had done a few things around the house, enjoyed my just slow getting up, not having to just get up and get out and going. It was nice just taking my time and being on my schedule versus being on my, work schedule. So I think that, I always visualize, especially when it's cold, like, oh, it'd be nice to go get coffee or tea in the middle of the day with you at some of the places around us. That's never been our thing. We don't really do that on, our Saturday mornings now are kind of split. I mean, and
Yeah, we each do our own athletic
yeah.
thing on Saturday morning.
So I think just being able to say, hey, do you want to go up and get some tea or a drink or a coffee? I think that I would enjoy doing that kind of thing. We've already broached into the going to the bar at Friday at 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Right.
So that one we've done, but I just think those kind of things where, hey, I look at my parents too, seeing that they go to the movies anytime they want.
Right.
So I think just being able to, I don't necessarily have a perfect day in my head, but just being able to throw those things in there that right now
Right.
we can because we're still working, obviously, to put, two children through college. So I think that would be just,
Yeah. I think hearing that, there's a lot of similarity. That's when I was struggling to answer this. I was thinking, I don't know that I could script a day. I
No.
could script the elements to a day. And a key element is time unconstrained. If I want to get up at crack of dawn and see a sunrise, I'll get up at crack of dawn. If I don't want to, then I can just slow roll the morning. That morning is met with the coffee, the quiet time, then it's to the gym, getting something athletic in. I think it's that unscripted time combined with activity. That's what a perfect day is. And that's part of, I think, you and I will have to figure out is what do those activity really look like? Because I'll get bored. And so what does a day that is truly unscripted look like? And there's elements too. I think I'm looking forward, and you and I have started dabbling, even this podcast itself, into the more creative output space. I think a perfect day has elements of that as well. What does that look like? What are some of the creative outputs that can be made? So a mixture of activity and creative outputs, and then it's followed with a martini somewhere between the 4 and 6 p.m. time frame, followed by a really nice dinner, followed by a relaxing evening and a wonderful turn to bed. Right? That's a perfect day. And that's my stay at home day. Now, the actual perfect day is the one where I'm en route to the airport for my business class trip to somewhere with you, right? You want to talk about my perfect day it's that,
Yeah.
that we're heading somewhere, we're heading to an airport with business class boarding passes in hand to go somewhere really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the point of you saying, I think when we can turn off our alarm clocks,
Yeah.
that's would be the start to the perfect day. And again, it's not like we're just because we're retired doesn't mean that, okay, now we have to do everything together all day, every day.
Right.
It's not going to be like that. So there's going to be activities that you're interested in that I'm not necessarily interested in. So, but I think just not having to be, like you said, constrained by time.
Yeah. I think that's the real luxury. And I think I've even heard, even in the business world, the pre-retired world, people talk, what is the most valuable asset? Well, it's time. It's the one thing that you can't add more of. You can't, well, I guess you technically subtract, but you can't add more of it. There's no dollar amount that gets you more of that. So there's nothing more valuable than that, and having control of that. Even in how I'm trying to evolve my business before I retire, is seeking to get more of that control of just what a day in the life of work looks like.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's it. That's our fifth question, right?
That was it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so there's 5 other questions on the site that you mentioned. Yeah, some are duplicates. This is fun.
Yeah.
I definitely have learned here in this, I guess 20 some odd minutes so far. I've learned something about you, some things about you. And I'm afraid on what you've asked me to bring.
Well, I haven't told you how. There may be some limitations on.
Hey, you're afraid
things.
That I said the word golf, so there's fear going back and forth.
I love that we're adding like the most expensive outdoor activity to our.
Well, that's why I mentioned Arizona, actually, is it doesn't have to be the most expensive outdoor activity. You are correct, though, that it can be something that's incredibly pricey, even stupid pricey when we talk about the PGA specifically. But there are ways to explore it less expensive. Yes. Or we just continue to play Frisbee golf.
Yes, and we just go, maybe we just get a golf cart that we can drive up to PGA when we're going to have our drinks.
Have a little cocktail and a pretty good burger there, actually. Top Golf Lounge did a nice burger there at the PGA.
Yeah. So, but this is just, another way to check in. Like I said, the marriage retreats were always good for that because they usually always have some set of questions that you're supposed to go through and answer. So I think, just this was a good activity for us, not knowing what each other's answers were going to be.
Right.
We did ours live on her
that was very exposing.
Camera, but it's fine to do. We don't have problems being vulnerable with each other or with you guys.
You know what? So. That's an interesting. There's a thread there. I actually think that there are times that we do, and where questions like this can help be that. Like if there's a question that's forced, then we have no problem answering the question. I think though, let's take that question off the table, or this question set. I think it would have been not something, we wouldn't have talked about sex organically. We wouldn't have talked about what you need from me or what I need from you organically. Having these questions helped us move into that space that we are very comfortable. I have no problem talking to you once it's sort of initiated.
Yeah. Well, because I think at other points in our marriage, and probably in most marriages, when you bring something up, it's because there's an issue going on in that area. So, because there have been times along our marriage that, yes, we were like, look, we need to fix this because it's not working. So yes, but having them right in front of your face and you don't have to bring up the conversation does make it flow easily. So, but yeah, that was good. We do have a text from the girl child this week. So it's from Teagan. This was when we were at the movie yesterday, and again, like I have talked about Teagan, she's very regimented. She likes her schedule. She calls every day when she's walking back from the gym, but Saturday she doesn't usually go to the gym. So she's like, well, I probably won't call because I'm not going to the gym. She's
not
still
part of the schedule.
She still texts and stuff, but the call is not coming in. But so she texted us while we were at the movie theater and said, not sure when your guys' movie is, but I did end up having time to call today if you guys would like to call. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Teagan.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh, okay. She has time to talk to us, which is funny because, when we got on the phone with her, and this happened Friday night, we had friends over and she called, and so I stepped out to talk to her because I always answer the phone when she calls, unless there's just some reason I can't. But, she said, well, I have a few minutes because I'm meeting so-and-so. And I said, well, we don't have long either because we're, have people over and we're going out.
That's right.
And then,
We have a schedule too.
we have a
We have a life.
Yeah. And then yesterday she did the same thing because we called her from the car. She said, "Well, I have a few minutes because I'm waiting for, someone to come and pick me up because we're going out." So yeah, but I do.
Certainly.
I appreciate that she calls. I appreciate that she has gotten now back into her groove and is just having another, good fun time with all of her friends. So.
It's nice to see that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, it has been so much laughing. It has been a fun ride on another episode of The Loud Quiet,
Living the Empty Nest.